Hey, welcome to another episode of the Not Scrum Dumb podcast. I'm your co-host, Andreanna Marshall, and that's my amazing co-host.
Grand Scrum Master Scott. Greetings, everyone.
So today we're going to be talking about impediments. What are impediments? And then we're also going to go through scenarios and discuss if the scenario is an impediment or not an impediment, which is something the team can resolve themselves. I kind of led into the definition already there, but the definition of an impediment is anything that impedes or slows a Scrum team's progress and cannot be resolved by the Scrum team internally. That's the definition. Now let's get into a few scenarios and we'll discuss, does the Scrum Master need to intervene, or is this something that the Scrum team can resolve themselves? So the first scenario, the development team is facing significant delays due to a lack of clarity on the requirements from the product owner, leading to frequent rework. Scott, what do you think? Does a Scrum Master need to intervene in this situation, and what would they do to help?
All right, very good one. Development team facing significant delays due to lack of clarity from the product owner. Thus, this is leading to frequent rework. None of us like to do rework. So it depends on where we are in this process. If we're just starting and this is just happening, I would say this is just part of the process. I will be monitoring it, coaching and facilitating. But if we're kind of a seasoned team and we having this issue, maybe it just came up, maybe we just started a new project, I'm going to put back on my facilitating hat and begin to ask questions. What do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about that? Depending upon where we are in the sprint, let's say if sprint retrospective is in 2 days from now, I'll probably just wait to the sprint retrospective so that we have plenty of time to talk about it and let them get to the point of the sprint review so they can deliver and use the sprint retrospective to try to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe a big part of a Scrum Master's job is to help the team get to done with high quality. And if we're having these communication issues, we do need to think about how we're coaching our team to be self organizing if this is something that they can do, which you've already mentioned. But on the other hand, facilitating, depending on where the team is at, having those tough discussions within your retrospective or even outside of your retrospective if needed. I think this is one of those difficult ones where the first thing I can think is actively do nothing, pay attention, monitor, try to coach them into having that conversation with the product owner. If it is not going anywhere, I do think that is a time to step in and help because we're talking about poor quality and we're talking about our inability to get it done. And I do think as Scrum Masters, we have to step in and help coach. All right, the second scenario, only one developer is showing up on time for the daily Scrum. What do you think, Scott? Is this something that a Scrum Master should intervene immediately, or is this something that we kind of talked about? Maybe it's a wait and see.
It depends. My strategy would be the first 30 days of going into an environment. I'm going to teach them about Daily Scrum. This event is their event, and I probably will facilitate it for the first 30 days. After that, I'm going to take my teaching hat off, and now I got my coaching slash referee hat on. So if it happens after 30 days, you know what I'm going to do, John and everyone else? Absolutely nothing. If I'm in a face to face place, I'm going to lean my chair back, put my feet up on the desk, and do absolutely nothing.
I don't think a Scrum Master needs to solve this problem. I think a Scrum Master needs to teach the daily Scrum is for developers and by developers. And if your team's not able to come, ask them why they're not able to come. I've had a situation like this where people, they had very different working hours. Some people were early birds, some people were a little later and they worked late. Someone worked 2 hours away. So what did they decide? They were like, oh, what should we do? I'm like, you should talk to each other. I know that's a bright idea, but like talk to each other. And they came up with having a later daily scrum in the day to accommodate everyone's schedule. I don't think a scrum master has to intervene in this situation. All right, on to the next scenario. The sprint planning events are consistently running over time, causing frustration among team members and impacting the rest of their schedules. Does a scrum master need to intervene, Scott?
I have seen this before, and I would say absolutely yes. And you have the Scrum Guide to back you on this. I'm thinking of one of the bullet points for the Scrum Master is that we ensure that all the events take place, that they are positive and productive. We don't have to facilitate all of them, but we do have to make sure they fall within those guidelines according to the Scrum Guide. We do have a time box. So if the time box is an hour at 59 seconds, y'all wrap it up. We got 1 second. Time's up. So yes, we definitely need to step in if that is happening.
Yeah, and I think also take it a step further, is your product owner prepared coming to that meeting? The other thing I would say, dig a little deeper, understand is the event going on longer because of lack of preparation? Is your product owner not coming in there with an ordered product backlog and a clear product goal? These are some things that you have to work with your product owner on. Try to identify what is that root cause and try to intercept that for the next sprint planning so that you're not dealing with those issues that maybe trickle in. Or if you do have something that is happening during the event, step in, facilitate, help it run a little bit smoother. Maybe that's not the time. Maybe you've been doing too much actively do nothing and they actually need you to actively help them. The next scenario, the current tool at the company does not meet the developer's needs. Scott, do you think a scrum master needs to intervene for this?
I'm going to say yes and no. The current tool does not meet their needs. And what I'm thinking about here is when I join a team nowadays, I ask them two questions. Developers, what kind of tools do you use to track your progress? And they typically say, watch my expression. Oh, we use Jira. Doesn't sound like or look like they like Jira, right? No. So it sounds like you don't like Jira. I don't. What do you use to estimate your work? We use velocity. We use story point. But based upon your response, you don't like story points. Nah, we don't like story points. Well, if you could use anything in the world that you want to use to track your work and estimate your work, what would it be? Then you're going to get this crazy look from them because now you're basically asking them to use their imagination and creativity, which they did at one point in time. But the organization told them, that, hey, you have to use Jira, you have to use story points. So the current tool did not work for them. And this team, I said, I'll tell you what, why don't y'all create something? Why don't you like Jira? Oh, it's missing this, it's missing that. Create something. We use it. We just use it on our local team. Somebody else like it? Great. They did that in about 24 hours. And we had a sprint review. They came and showed it to me. And it was something amazing. You know what, Scott? We made it so that when you go to your little, watch this. This is how they talking to me, right? They said, we made this so that when you go to your little Scrum Master meeting, the other Scrum Masters may want this because it's so different. I said, "Oh, my little meet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you go to your little meet with the Scrum Masters, they may want this too." And it was probably the most amazing things I've ever seen. At that time, this is like 4 years ago, it made Jiro look like Fred Flintstone at that particular point in time. Jiro's come a long way over the years, as we talked about in a previous video. But at that particular point in time, they created their own platform. And then before I left that company, actually the whole company was using what they built. And it all started with me asking the question, what do you want to use to estimate your work? That would be my example.
Yeah, I really like that. The other thing is you also didn't force them to pick a solution. You allowed them to pick their own solution. And I think I lean towards no in this situation because of what you just said. You allowed them to pick their own solution and it was well received and they were able to create something for themselves. And that's why I don't think a scrum master needs to intervene in this situation. You can support the team in presenting the tool or tools or allow them to just think through like, can I use something else? I work in an environment where we have an approved list of things we can use. You cannot just use anything you want. You can't just go type in whatever you want. You do have a prescribed list. And in my situation, I can always send that list, walk them through some of the pros and cons to help them through that. All right, we went over 4 different scenarios where we think some of them, as a scrum master, you should intervene and some you do not. And let us know in the comments if you have a different opinion. If you disagree with some of the ones that we said yes or no to, let us know in the comments. Also, in the comments, you can leave a question and we'll answer your question. And we'll also turn it into a video. We love getting your questions. It gets us thinking about new content and you help contribute to the channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. Keep following us and enjoying this content, hit the subscribe button. We've also created a mailing list where we're giving exclusives to our subscribers. So make sure you go in the description and join our mailing list. And as always, you made it to the end of this video. That means you have an attention span greater than a goldfish.
Be legendary, everyone, but not Scrum Dumb in handling and dealing with impediments.